Hey everyone, welcome. This is Jason Clemens, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemens, DC. We are live right here in the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios in Lubbock, Texas. We're live on the radio at 98.7 Walk by Faith, 1420 AM, streaming on 987radio.com, and we're on all of our social media pages tonight. Hope you guys are doing great. Hope you had a great week. Man, it's been great at the Rock this week. It's just been busy working on people, had awesome new patients, had some really cool conversations today. That's what we do on this show is we bring them to you. And last night we talked about fish oil from a standpoint of chemistry. And believe it or not, I still got some things I want to talk about with that because those articles I got lost in last night. There's just some good information that we can use. So we're going to touch on that a little bit, and then we're going to talk a little bit about movement. So because we talk about fuel and activation, right? We talk about those things that we need to keep ourselves healthy and those neurons healthy. We need fuel and activation. So chemistry is the fuel. That oxygen, glucose, those are the things that we're talking about. And then we got to have movement. And we don't understand, I don't think, as a society, the importance of movement when it comes to your spine and the joint movement, not just moving your feet and walking, but the joint movement within your body. So that's what we got on tap tonight. And then I've got an article that's a new article that Dr. Murphy put out today, and it is talking about they did a gigantic study actually to determine what helps with low back pain, acute and chronic low back pain, and what are the things that actually helps. And you might actually be surprised to find out some of the answers of what helps and what doesn't help. So that's one of the non-surgical treatments for low back pain. And it came out of the British Medical Journal, March 18th, 2025. So we're going to talk about that and tonight too. So I haven't had a chance, and maybe tomorrow night I'll have a chance to break this down, but I got a message. I don't know. I saw something this morning. I was up early for some reason. I couldn't sleep. And whenever I do that, I try to do something inspiring. And that's what I did last night. I don't know. It's 3:00 in the morning or something. And so I'm checking some things out. And it was a mapping from Science magazine of the mitochondria in the brain. It was really a cool picture. First map of human brain mitochondria is groundbreaking achievement. Hundreds of cubes of human brain tissue help scientists to chart the energy-making capabilities of various brain regions. You know, I heard Dr. Demartini say one time, and John Demartini, he was a chiropractor out of Houston. Now he's a world famous teacher. Taught me a lot of things, a lot of philosophy, and a lot of science. Dr. Demartini is awesome. I love his work. But he made a statement one time, and he said, you know, we can't wait for science to catch up to us. And because when you're onto something that's true, sometimes it takes a little bit of time for science to catch up to you. And you can't just wait around for it to catch up. There's a lot of things, you know, you might have to adjust a little bit. But what this article is I'm gonna see if I can pull it up, of human brain. Let me see if I can. Yeah, there's a picture of it right there. So maybe. Yeah, they got the. I thought I had Science magazine. I'll look at it tomorrow. But it's the first map of human brain mitochondria. It's groundbreaking achievement. So last night we were talking about the, making the ATP in the cell. right? That we drew the cell, we drew the mitochondria. We said the mitochondria makes the ATP. And so you start to think, okay, well, I got to have this power source. I got to have the supply of power inside my body in order for my body to work properly. So how do I make more energy? How do I make more ATP? I got to protect those mitochondria. It's vital. It's vital to do that. So you start studying that and you start looking at it, and that's what literally made me one of the biggest fans on earth of fish oil was the protection of the mitochondria, because that makes total sense to me. I mean, it just makes total sense. If you run your battery down, and it's just useless, right? If my laptop battery goes dead or my phone battery goes dead, those instruments no longer are helpful for anything. And as long as they're working, you just take them for granted, and your whole world just kind of fits in the thing that it's supposed to fit in. But then as soon as they stop working, then it's like, uh-oh. And it really gets your attention, right? And if you think about it, as soon as your heart stops working or skips a beat, or as soon as you have shortness of breath, as soon as you get to the point where you can't remember things, you start forgetting words, and it's like, whoa, hang on a second, this is getting my attention now, right? Any part of your body that's not working, it's very important. So you start learning these ideas of ATP and mitochondria and cell walls and phospholipid bilayers and all this sort of thing. And then all of a sudden you get an article out of, it's actually a Nature magazine. It's not Science magazine. That's why I couldn't get it. But all of a sudden you get the first map of human brain mitochondria, and it shows a picture of it. And then you're like, holy mackerel. Like this is like a big deal. And there's I got it right here, actually. This is cool. I found some of it. Different regions of the human brain, artificially colored, have different densities of the energy producing organelles called mitochondria. Let me share that picture with you. This comes right off of Headline Central, wherever that is, but this will be cool to look at. You guys can see it. It's right there. Let me break it big. And so there's your brain, and there's the different, what it's saying is that the different regions of the human brain, artificially colored, have different densities of the energy producing organelles, mitochondria. Science have created the first map of the crucial structures called mitochondria throughout the entire brain, the feat that could help us unravel age-related brain disorders. The results show that mitochondria, which generates the energy that powers cells, differs in type and density in different parts of the brain. For example, the evolutionary oldest brain regions have a lower density of mitochondria than the newer regions. The map, which the study authors called the MitoBrain Map, is both technically impressive and conceptually groundbreaking, says this neurobiologist from the University of Erlangen, Germany. The brain's mitochondria are not just bit part players. The biology of the brain, as we know now, is deeply intertwined with energetics of the brain. That's a doctor at Columbia University. So it's pretty cool. The cubic millimeter of brain mapped is in spectacular detail. Those are those synapses that are going on that we talk about in that a billion neurons in your brain. I mean, like, what a cool picture that is. I don't know if you guys can really appreciate that. Let's see if I can blow it up as big as possible. But yeah, that's a really cool picture. There's a lot going on in your brain. And you break it down in these smaller pieces, and eventually you start to see it. And it's like, man. So we may read on that a little bit more tomorrow and see if we can learn something of it. But this is what we're working on right here. This is those different parts of the brain itself. You know, it's like We're really finding out, like, all this cortex up here, and these this corpus callosum, and the whole brain stem, and the pons, and the cerebellum, and like that's what makes you work. Your brain makes you work. I had a fantastic conversation today with one of our guys, that's a new patient in the office, and just explaining, because some of the things that we found were a little bit concerning, and so but they were brain stuff first, and I mentioned it lots of times on the show. Brain stuff happens before orthopedic stuff happens. Your knee doesn't wear out before your brain's not functioning properly. And so if you're having like this fatigue, one of the things is mental fatigue. Let's go back. Let's do that. Well, I'm going to get to those articles, but this is kind of cool how this is working out. May have to just hang on. Let's see. Let me scoot this up just a little bit. I think it's cool. We used to do football the same exact way. I remember one day I walked in when I was coaching at New Mexico State, my first year, I think. I worked on a play all night long, and I thought, man, this is going to be great. And I walked in there, and I told Coach Ferg, I said, hey, what about if we run this play like this? And then he came back, and he said, what are you going to do if the safety does that? And then I was like, dadgum. I mean, it was we used to do that all the time, but I was coaching that for Coach Goodner at Tech. And I mean, this whole stuff, we used to. I know you guys think this is silly, but we used to have these type of conversations. Like we're gonna line up against somebody like this, and I was responsible for these guys right here. But we would have an end and a Sam and a Mike and a Will, and our Raider would stack right there, and our end corner, and a free safety. This is old time football. This is not new time football stuff. But this is just. I've got a point. I got a point that I'm making right here. Okay, we would line up that way, and then I was responsible for coaching these guys right here for 2 years. Just these guys in the middle. And we were number 8 in the country in defense, by the way, in 1998. So you can look that up. That's factual. And played almost every snap of the whole season with 3 guys right there. And one of them is the defensive line coach for the San Francisco 49ers right now, Chris Kasurek. Yeah. But you start working on that, and you understand that this tackle has to stay in that B gap. This is the A gap. This is the B gap. This tackle in a 3 technique, he has to stay in that gap. At least back in the 90s, you used to. Nowadays, they throw the ball, and they got all kinds of different things. But back in the day, that's what we looked. And this nose guard had to stay in this gap on this side. So I knew my responsibility was to coach those guys to stay in those gaps. Now, the other guys had to coach other people to stay in their gaps, and that's the way defense works. You look at it, and you say, okay, I got to keep this guy – I got to keep my guys in this gap. You called this particular defense, and I know where I'm supposed to line up. I got a 3 technique over here. I got a 1 technique over here, and my responsibility is to be there, okay? And I have to teach every blocking scheme that could possibly happen to make sure that my guys know how to play every blocking scheme that they could face. And some of them were a little tricky. A&M had a way that they ran the trap that was really tricky. And so you look at that and you say, okay, this is the big picture of it, and then we work it down to the details, all the way down to how we're going to put our hand on the ground and how we're going to step and punch and all the things that we're going to do, right? All right. We could do the same exact thing with our health, and we can go through the stress response. And you think, why are you going to go through the stress response again? Like you've gone through this stress response thing 46 times so far. And I'm like, all right, well, do you know how many times I've drawn this? I mean, do you know how many times I put that on a piece of paper over my lifetime? And I looked at all the things and how this fit and like, okay, what if I slid this guy over where he was lined up head up and I slid this guy over when he was lined up head up? That's a totally different technique. That's a totally different way you teach it. That's a totally different combination of what the linebackers now have to do that are standing behind it. Like the dynamics of just moving that guy over from a shade technique to a head up technique is like completely different right there. And so I've done that. I mean, literally since I was born. Dad used to get a napkin. We'd sit there with a napkin at the kitchen table, and we would draw all kinds of blocking schemes and how you run the option and what the quarterback's supposed to do and all that sort of thing. We started that from birth, basically. I guess that might have been some of the first things I learned in my lifetime was that stuff, right? Well, let's go through the stress response. What's the number one part of the stress response? Just based on not based on going over the stress response again, but just based on what we just talked about with the different parts of the brain and brain fatigue and mitochondria. Let's think about mitochondria now and when we're just talking about the stress response. Number one is what? What is the number one step, according to Dr. Chestnut? This is where I got all this stuff. Is what is it in the stress response? It's an alarm. Something is alarming my body. It doesn't have to be conscious either. It could be subconscious. It's like something is alarming my body. My body needs to adapt to this, right? That's the number two thing, is adapt. It's hot outside, we need to sweat. It's cold in here, I might need to shiver. Like those are adaptation things. I'm getting stress on a bone, I need to grow more bone. I'm not getting enough stress on a bone, I need to adapt. I need muscles. What if the muscles work? Had a guy today lifting a water heater, hurt himself. He's been trying. Now it's all of a sudden after 4 weeks, the pain moved from the left side to the right side. Okay, what is that? What's happening right there? The body's trying to adapt. It had an alarm. The water heater was the alarm, and it tried to adapt, right? And then number three is fatigue. So now I'm tired. I'm tired. Are y'all tired today? Like it's 6:22 on a Thursday. We're almost to Friday. Are you getting a little tired? Are you tired tonight? Is your body a little bit tired? And it's like if it is, if you're tired, what can you take from that? And let's say you're tired all the time. Every day in the afternoon, I just get tired, man. About 2 or 3 o'clock, I'm just sleepy and tired. I can go home from work, just get in my recliner, bam, I'm out. I'm tired. What is that saying to me? Like what's going on there? We should narrow down some of the issues, right? And then because what's going to happen after fatigue is sickness. And then if you keep going, if you go past it, if you don't get it corrected, if you don't get your problem corrected in that whole deal, what you're going to get into is number 5 is death. Alarm, adapt, fatigue, sickness, death. And so what would happen if we were looking at this brain picture and we were damaging mitochondria? We were damaging mitochondria, and we were running out of ATP, which is the energy of the cell. It's the gasoline of the cell. Our tank is now running empty, and we're running out of gas. What do you think might happen to the brain? Would it be hard to concentrate? Yes. Would it be? Would you just sleep, just like fall asleep all the time? Yes. Would you have a hard time remembering facts? Yes. Like it's like, would you possibly have a hard time walking? Yes. Like there would be a lot of factors going on. But Another thing that you would do is you would have a hard time, if you were under brain fatigue, you would have a hard time sitting up straight. Have you ever been so tired you were just slouching? Like you just wanted to sit down. You almost just wanted to lay your head down on the, like, just sitting here on the table, the desk here. I'm just so tired. I just want to close my eyes and just lay down. I'm just tired. So what if you go home, you sit down in a chair, you probably just like shrink into the chair. Like you're oh man, my body is tired. Think about that now, and think about the postural effects or the biomechanical, the movement effects of the joint. Just take your shoulders, for example. If you start to slouch and your head goes forward and your shoulders roll forward and you're tired, your shoulders are now in the wrong, what we call anatomical position to start a movement. Instead of you being setting up and having proper posture and putting your shoulders back in the proper position, if your brain gets tired, your shoulders get tired. And now your shoulders are in the wrong position to start the movement. Now you reach and grab something. You reach in the back of your pickup truck and grab something and try to pick it up. You reach and try to pick up your children. You try to reach and take a basket full of dirty clothes and pick it up and take it into the laundry room, or the clean clothes and take them into the bedroom. Like, I want to take the trash out to the alley, and it's like it's and now the trash is heavy, and I'm not in the right position, and that shoulder is rolled in the wrong place, and the brain doesn't quite realize that the shoulder is rolled in the wrong place, and the brain sends the signal to the shoulder to fire the muscles of the shoulder with the idea that the shoulder is in the proper zero position. But the shoulder's not in the proper zero position. The shoulder's rotated a little bit, but the brain and the shoulder aren't connected to each other properly because they're subluxated. There's interference between the brain and the shoulder. And so now the shoulder's rolled forward, but the muscles fire in a pattern that is expected to be proper. And what happens? I strain a rotator cuff tendon. It's like, oh man, that hurts. Man, my shoulder hurts right there. It's just like right here. It kind of runs down my arm to my elbow. My shoulder hurts. Now, what happened first? Was it the orthopedics of the shoulder that happened first, or was it the fatigue of the brain that happened first? Was it something going on in the brain that was happening before the shoulder went wrong? And that's what I'm saying to us when we want to first of all try to protect our orthopedics. If we want to protect our joint and our joint movement, like I don't want to have a knee replacement, I don't want to have a hip replacement, I don't want to have a spinal disc bulge, I don't want to have a shoulder rotator cuff tear, I don't really want to have tennis elbow or golfer's elbow, I don't really want to deal with carpal tunnel syndrome. I'd rather not have that. I don't want to have to deal with a sprained ankle. Like, none of those things are attractive, right? Nobody wants to deal with that stuff. Well, what's holding my knee together? How is my knee working? And what are some of the things that keep my knee from tearing itself up? Well, I got all these muscles, I've got ligaments, I've got tendons, I've got fascia, I've got all those things around that knee. And what's controlling all that? My brain. I've got blood supply. I've got nerve supply. What is controlling all that? My brain is controlling it. You get that? Does that make any sense? I hope it does. I hope it makes, you're like, wait a minute. My knee hurts. Dadgummit, my brain was tired. How come my brain was tired? Fuel and activation, right? We didn't get the proper fuel to the brain. The brain became fatigued. What do you mean? We didn't get the proper omega-6-3 ratio in this picture that has a billion mitochondria in it or more. That picture right there of all those different colors and the density of them is showing where the mitochondria are. And where is your motor cortex? It's up here at the top, right? So your motor and sensory cortex is up here at the top of this picture, at the top of the brain, and the motor cortex is full of mitochondria. And the mitochondria are inside the cell. And the cell is protected with the phospholipid bilayer. And the neuron has the cell in it. And the neuron is evaluating, based on what we went through last week with Dr. Bredeson's book, the neuron is evaluating with antennas the environment around the neuron and what's going to keep, what's the antifreeze of the brain? The fish oil, right? So if we don't have the proper chemistry, then we don't have the proper ATP production, and then we have fatigue in the brain, and then we end up hurting our shoulder. Does that make any sense? I hope it does. I hope it makes some sense to you right there. We got to take a break. We'll be back here in just a few minutes. This is Life with Jason Clemens, DC. We'll come back and we'll break down those articles on the other side of the break. You got to stick around with us. I better give them credit for this particular, because this first map of brain mitochondria is groundbreaking achievement, and it just says headline central. I don't really know where that's coming from, but it's pretty cool. That's a picture of it right there. We got to wait just a second. We'll be back from the break. We'll go through some of these articles. If you have any questions or comments, you want to send them in, you have any topics you want to talk about, feel free to do that. If you're new to the show, understand right now what we're in is a commercial. We got a radio station, live radio show going on. I'm listening to it right now. I can hear the commercials, and then we're going through that right now. So I taught medical assisting for many years. Yes, this makes so much sense and so interesting. If I was still teaching, I would so use this info. Well, thanks. That's awesome. It's so amazing to me, really, why it's not common. I mean, I would think maybe y'all think the same thing. It's like, why is this not just like regular stuff that we learned in 6th grade or something? Like, why didn't we write a book report on this when we were in 11th grade about exactly how our body works? I mean, every one of us has a body. I mean, it's common to all of us, man and woman, rich and poor. It doesn't matter what state you were born in or what country you were born in. Like, it doesn't make a difference what your parents do for a living or you even have any parents. It's like, none of that stuff. It's every single human being on earth has the same common problems. It's the same brains and the same arms and the same legs. And you would think that this would just be just regular stuff. I didn't invent any. I didn't invent any of it. I just learned it and shared it. And just sharing it with you. Let me get us back on the radio. Okay, everybody, this is Jason Clemens. This is Life with Jason Clemens, DC. We're back. We're breaking down some stuff tonight. And we just talked about mitochondria. So We did it in a very in-depth way. So I want to just touch on a couple little things about last night's show, um, just to make sure that I covered it properly, um, because I think it's pretty cool stuff. But oh man, I erased that part. Hang on, I can get it back. There's just a couple of things that I just wanted to make sure, in case you were curious, that the article says, this article, that the meta-analysis of analgesic effect of omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acid supplementation for inflammatory joint pain. It came from the journal Pain, May 2007. Okay, and we went over it last night. I'm not going to go back over this particular article tonight, but there's just there's 4 or 5 points maybe that we can make. All right, if you're going to take fish oil to help knock down, because people ask me this question all the time, Doc, how long is it going to take for this to work? Because, if I take a Tylenol, it's going to work immediately. It's going to work within a couple minutes. Well, how long is this going to take for me to start to feel the effect of fish oil? Or I'll hear this statement: yeah, I tried it one time, it didn't work. That's what I hear people say. When a person says that, if you're one of those people and you say, I tried fish oil and it doesn't work, that's almost like saying, I stepped off the top of this building and I didn't hit the ground. Fish oil works all the time in all the people. It's not one of those things that doesn't work. Now, whether or not you can tell any difference for yourself in the short term, that maybe is really irrelevant, but it works. But it really, what the article says here, consideration of treatment time showed that a minimum of 3 months was required for therapeutic effect. It's going to take a little time, because it takes about that amount of time to get the incorporation into the cell wall. We got to make new cells, and we got to get this incorporated into the cell wall. So when you start with your fish oil, just realize you're in it for the long haul. It's not a short-term thing right there. And the dose was 2.7 grams per day of EPA and DHA. That was what was required. So that's why our baseline is 3,000 milligrams. We went over that last night. Reducing the intake of omega-6s, which are metabolized into arachidonic acid and inflammatory eicosanoids, would be expected to increase the effectiveness of the omega-3 supplements. That just makes logical sense. If I'm imbalanced between omega-6s and omega-3s, then if I was to decrease my omega-6s and increase my omega-3s, that eventually I would get that balance back to where I wanted it to be, right? So that's just, but I thought I would read it because I think that's an important concept. Doc, what can I do to get my inflammation down? What can I do to make my joints not hurt as bad? Well, you can decrease your omega-6s and you can increase your omega-3s, okay? Olive oil is a poor choice for a placebo, and the main constituent of olive oil, oleic acid, may compete with arachidonic acid for incorporation into phospholipids. That's one of the things that you're going to get. Your body stores this arachidonic acid in your cell layers too, so it can release the arachidonic acid whenever it needs inflammation. Your body will keep these precursors to inflammation in case it needs inflammation, because there's a time, if you step on a rusty nail, or you sprain your ankle, or you cut your shin on a piece of wire, or cut your finger, you need some inflammation right there. Or if you have a bacteria or a virus or something like that, there's times when inflammation is 100% appropriate. That's why we have it. Because we're not trying to get rid of inflammation 100% all the time. But just imagine just imagine if you had just imagine if you had like your omega 6s and your omega 3s, and what we were supposed to have is a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning if inside my body I had one omega 6 and inside my body I had one omega 3, that's the way it's supposed to be. Even if I get to 3-to-1, I'm still doing okay. But what did we say yesterday? One of the studies, I've always learned 25-to-1, but one of the studies has it as that we read yesterday was 22-to-1. Now, if I've got this 22-to-1 ratio, I've got way more omega 6s than what I really am supposed to have. So what am I going to end up doing? I'm going to end up making inflammation way more than I'm supposed to. I'm not going to make it only with, and not only am I going to make it more frequently, I'm going to make more of it. Because I just got all this, I got just lots and lots of it. I mean, if you've got $50,000 in your bank account, you're going to spend money faster than if you've got $5 in your bank account. Right? It's like, yeah, you'll get rid of it faster. You got more resources. So if we've got this increase in amount of 6 that is going to lead to our inflammatory problems, then one of the things we could do is we could try to increase the 3s and we could try to decrease the 6s, and that's what the article is saying. Right there is just saying that would be one easy way to do that. Okay. And yeah, in chronic neuropathic pain, the production of inflammatory cytokines might potentially be reduced by EPA and DHA. Now that was back in 2007, I think, when that was written. I think that we've got enough information at this point. Chronic neuropathic pain, the production of inflammatory cytokines might potentially be reduced. Yes, the production of inflammatory cytokines will be reduced. So if you've got nerve pain, which nerve pain is relentless, it's just difficult to deal with nerve pain. It hurts a lot. Then that's one of the things you could do is you could take your fish oil. Alpha linolenic acid flaxseed oil is poorly converted to EPA and DHA. You just can't get that conversion right. The meta-analysis indicates that omega-3 supplementation in patients with rheumatoid arthritis or joint pain secondary to inflammatory bowel disease, and that's something to think about. That sentence right there is something to think about. Inflammation secondary or joint pain secondary to inflammatory bowel disease. What does that mean? Joint pain, rheumatoid arthritis, or joint pain secondary to inflammatory bowel disease and dysmenorrhea reduces patients' assess joint pain intensity, morning stiffness, number of painful or tender joints, and reduces NSAIDs. If you give omega-3s in patients with rheumatoid or joint pain secondary to inflammatory bowel disease, why would you have that? Why would you have joint pain if you had bowel disease, inflammatory bowel disease? What would inflammatory bowel disease do to you? Remember our Sonic cup? Remember our Sonic cup that's full of water? Because that's the only thing we drink at Sonic other than an unsweet tea, right? And then we got the straw going right through the middle of the Sonic cup. And we just poked a hole in the bottom of the straw. I mean, of the cup. You ever done that with the ice? So you got the styrofoam cup and you're punching that, trying to break that ice up, and you just stick that straw through that styrofoam cup, and it's like, oh heck, now you got water leaking everywhere. Yeah, just imagine that right there. Is we've sealed it off at the bottom of the cup, we've sealed it off at the top of the cup, and so we've got that straw running through the middle of that cup. Right? Anything that we pour into the top of the straw is going to go all the way through the straw, through the middle of the cup, and come out the bottom of the straw. If we were to be able to stick that straw through the middle of that cup, if you dropped a needle in the middle of that straw, it would just go right through the middle of the cup and fall to the ground. It would not get inside the water, inside the cup. No matter what you put inside that straw, it's not going to leak through that straw and get into the cup. Does that make any sense? I hope so. Okay. Imagine this is your body. Imagine the cup is your body, and the straw is your digestive tract that's going from top to bottom. If you swallow something that's not supposed to be in your body, if you swallow something that your intestines will say, nope, just pass that through. Just pass it through. I don't want that inside the body. Just pass it all the way through, and then it comes out the other end. Right? We just pass it through. Why would it do that? Why would you swallow something that the body said, nope, I don't want you in there, and just pass it all the way through? Well, that's a protective mechanism that the lining of the intestine has to protect you from getting things that's inside. You don't want those things inside of you. If it's not broken down with your microbiome, if it's not absorbed through the intestinal wall, you don't want it inside of you, right? So if you don't want it inside of you, and then all of a sudden you get inflammatory bowel disease. So now you've got this disruption of this straw. Your inflammatory bowel disease is like it opens up the connections of the cells. If the cells are supposed to be tight, then what happens is it kind of opens them up and makes them all shrivel a little bit. And when you swallow something that's not supposed to be inside your body, and it hits one of those areas of your intestine that's inflamed, you will start to absorb that thing that's not supposed to be in your body. You will absorb it through that inflammatory bowel, and it'll get into your body. And this little thing that's in your body now wasn't supposed to be there. It never was supposed to be there in the first place. So what do you get? You get an immune response. You get an allergic reaction to it. You get an immune response to it. Your body says, whoa. And then your immune system says, what am I supposed to do with that? Kind of reminds me how Coach Leach got fired from Texas Tech, right? Because that kid was out there messing around, not doing what he's supposed to be doing. And he said, Coach, what am I supposed to do with him? And Coach Leach said, go put him in that closet over there or whatever. Put him in that shed, right? Ended up getting fired over that deal. That was tragic for Texas Tech. But what is your body going to do with this little piece of material that was not supposed to be inside of it? It's going to push it as far away from the heart and the lungs as it can. It's going to push it all the way down there into your hands and in your feet. It's going to store it in the soft tissue or in the joints of your fingers and your toes, because it's going to say, wait, you got to get away from the brain, got to get away from the heart. Don't let that stuff get in here. Get it away from us. So what will you end up with? you will end up with trash in your joints, which is causing inflammation. It's causing inflammation in your joints. It's causing the chemical reaction. Here's our titration from last night. It's causing this chemical reaction in the joints, which is causing the inflammation in the joints. So let's go back to our article, because what did our article just say? Hang on. If I can find what did our article just say? Our article said, this meta-analysis indicates that omega-3 supplementation in patients with rheumatoid arthritis or joint pain secondary to inflammatory bowel disease and dysmenorrhea may reduce patient-assessed joint pain intensity, morning stiffness, number of painful or tender joints, and reduce NSAID consumption. Yeah, that's exactly right. If you wondered why you've got inflamed, that's what I'm saying is like, look, that little trigger finger thing that you got going on in your hand, that little trigger finger, when you start to bend your finger, and then all of a sudden that ligament just catches, and you got that little catch, or you try to straighten it out and it won't straighten out, and then it just kind of clicks right there. That trigger finger thing right there in that tendon, the first thing you should think about is your gut. That hand pain, that stuff, that inflammation in the hand, I would think inflamed bowels. That's the first thing that I think. That I don't think there's any problem in the hand. You'll have surgery on the hand to correct that, and there's nothing wrong with the hand. The hand will get all crumpled up, and that ligament will get all messed up in there, and swell up in your hand, and your hands will get dysfunctional. And if you really understood it, you would start with checking out your bowels. Okay? No one teaches that, but I think that's actually true. Omega-3 supplementation is an attractive adjunctive treatment for joint pain, of course, right? All right, let's move on to the next article, because it has to do with athletes, and which I have a whole class full of those, by the way. At 8 o'clock, there was 4 of them in there this morning in our little gym that we have in our office, and they were doing, all of them were over 75 years old. And I was coaching them up this morning, and we were like, hey, that first round was bad. We were not ready to move when we got there. And so it's like our first round was bad, but we got better each round. I was like, hey, you're an athlete. You're going to be strutting for the rest of the day, right? So this is the same concept of the omega-3 in athletics. This is Current Sports Medicine Reports, July of 2007. And they're talking about the same stuff, right? I just want to highlight the points that we've been making this week. Omega-3 fatty acids are essential for normal growth and development and play an important role in the prevention and management of coronary heart disease, and are beneficial in the management of hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes, arthritis, and other autoimmune disorders, and cancer. That's what the statement says right there from the article. But this first part is, if you're a parent, if you've got kids, you might want to, I think this is an important statement right there. Omega-3 fatty acids are essential for normal growth and development. Like, if we don't have that fuel in activation, if we don't have that proper fuel, then as our children are developing, they're at a disadvantage. If we really want our kids to be as healthy as possible, we want to make sure that our kids are taking their omega-3s. The human diet had major changes over the last 150 years, and the present Western diet is deficient in omega-3s with a ratio of omega-6 to omega-3s of 10 to 1 to 20 to 1, instead of 1 to 1 as in the case of wild animals and presumably human beings. That's what I was just pointing out just a second ago. And I've heard it up to 25 to 1. So Because we've gotten to the point where we have too many of the omega-6s. And why are you talking about this tonight? I'm talking about it because we were talking about chemistry, right? We were talking about chemistry. Ingestion of EPA and DHA from fish oil leads to, number one, decreased production of prostaglandin E2. That's our arachidonic acid. That's our omega-6 to arachidonic acid to prostaglandin E2. It decreases the inflammatory precursors. Decreased concentration of thromboxane A2 and potent platelet aggregator and vasoconstrictor. Decreased formation of leukotriene B4 and inducer of inflammation. So we got a vasoconstrictor. It decreases the concentration of that, which means vasoconstrictions mean you're going to increase your blood pressure. So it decreases that and decreases the inflammation. Diet rich in omega-6 fatty acids increases blood viscosity, vasospasm, and vasoconstriction. One of the things that causes your high blood pressure is a diet rich in omega-6 fatty acids. If you want your blood vessels to work properly, then you want to make sure that you've got the sorry about that, you guys on the radio. I don't know when I lost you, but I lost you somewhere along the way, but we got you back. So I apologize for that. What I was just saying is, if you're eating a lot of omega-6s, you're going to get this increased vasoconstriction, which is going to increase your blood pressure. As the ratio of 6:3 increases, the prevalence of type 2 diabetes also increases. That's something to think about. What did he just say? As the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids increases, as you go up from 1:1 to 3:1 to 6:1 to 22:1, your chances of your prevalence of type 2 diabetes also increases. Okay, are there things we can do to help all this, right? Of course. Exercise and physical activity is associated with lower risk of cardiovascular disease, hypertension, obesity, and diabetes. The effects of omega-3 fatty acids and physical activity are similar and are opposite of those effects of the aging process. You know how many people we've got today that are making a living by selling people anti-aging formulas? They're in some sort of anti-aging progress, or they're study, or they're anti-aging things. It's like, look, it's if you take your omega-3s and you get physical activity, it's the opposite of those effects of the aging process. Those are two anti-aging things that you can do. Both omega-3 fatty acids and exercise increase the production of antioxidants like glutathione, superoxide dismutase. Big deal, right? I think it's a big deal. Something that if you it's so easy to get your exercise and to get your 6:3 ratio under control, and it will help you with the balance of inflammation in your body. And there's just article after article after article after article that supports that idea. And I know it. I know you guys are taking it. But so let's look at this last one. We just got a couple minutes left. And let's look at this article about the analgesic effects. Let's see what I got right here. No, that's not it. Where is it? Hang on. That was us. Shoot, I ran out of time. I can't even get to it. That's the end of the show. I'll get it tomorrow night. We'll talk about it. It's a good one. I apologize. That was kind of messed that up right there. You guys have a great night. we'll be back tomorrow night at 6. If you got anything you want to talk about, send it to me. Otherwise, you guys have a great evening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.